Our state by nature is our sin, how deep it stains. And Satan binds our captive minds, fast in his slavish chains.
What do we learn from Whitney Houston? I've seen videos that say, "Rest in peace, Whitney. Whitney in heaven is Whitney in hell." But I think that sort of thing distracts from what's really important and what her death teaches us. Times like this, usually a death of somebody who impacted our life, it shakes us. It just rattles us out of our own self-centered existence and turns us to what really matters, that we are but creatures, and that, as the writer of Ecclesiastes stated, life is but a vapor. And the years go on, and it seems like they speed up. And a death reminds us of that fact. It reminds us of our mortality. It reminds us that there is an eternity. Scripture states God has placed eternity on our hearts, and a death reminds us of that. And it should also remind us that it is appointed unto man once to die, and after that the judgment. My friend Dale said at my grandmother's funeral, "This will one day be you." And I say regarding Whitney Houston and her death, that will one day be you. And what will you do then? The problem with our culture today is God is just not in our minds. Used to in the past that God was a central part of a society, especially here in America, but not anymore. We get up and most Americans live their lives and God's not even a passing thought. And that's a problem, because at some point nothing existed. Which means when God brought everything into existence, all the reasons he did so were found within himself, not us. We were made for him. Scripture states as much. That we exist for him, we were made by him and for him. One day, we will be Whitney Houston. We'll be in that coffin. We'll be dead. We will be standing before our Creator, and what then? In Isaiah chapter 6, Isaiah got a glimpse of his Creator. He stood before that throne. And what was his response at the sight of such a glorious God, one who is infinite, one who is perfect, one who is just and holy and righteous, who will by no means acquit the guilty, who is of purer eyes than evil, even to behold evil, whose standard is, "Be ye therefore perfect." What was Isaiah's response at such a sight, at the vision of such a God? He was instantly writhing around on the ground in agony. That's the glory of God. Let me give you another word picture of that God before whom we will stand one day. Think of the sun. I did a video on this, and I'll put it in the info box. We can't even look at the sun. We can't get near the sun. And the truth is, you get caught out in the wilderness too long, the sun is going to kill you. But if that's the case for the sun, how much more for the one who created it? The light of the sun warms the earth, lights the earth. How much more for the one who created it? And from my understanding, our sun's a small little thing in comparison to the many of the stars in the universe. Imagine that. That's God. That's the one who has created, the Son, the one before whom we'll stand, the one before whom we'll give an account, as Whitney Houston may be doing now, already has done. But I want you to consider God. Consider Him, for you were made for Him, and you will give an account to Him. This isn't meant to be a gospel message. It's meant for you to consider God. He didn't make everything for you. He didn't make you for you. He made you for Him. That blood pumping through your veins is His. That air you breathe is His. That food you eat, those clothes you wear, that car you drive, that water you drink is all His and made for Him. And we live our lives as if we own it. The money you have in the bank, His. Your family, His. And if tomorrow He decides to take it all back, you stop existing. It's His, and we get up every day acting as if He doesn't exist, and we are entitled to His possessions. That's the attitude. We're like a spoiled child who gets up every day and spits in his parents' face, eats the food in the fridge, sleeps in the bed, steals the money as if it's his, not his parents'. And we'd be offended at a kid who acted like that, but somehow it's okay for us to act that way when it comes to God. So imagine, again, when you stand before Him, what do you think His attitude's genuinely going to be? He's not just going to wink at it like Morgan Freeman and go, "Aw, shucks." He's not Santa. He's perfect, and He's holy, and He's good. And because He's good, He won't overlook it. In the info box, I'll put up a video from my grandmother's funeral, a funeral sermon to remember. You'll have to turn the audio up, but my friend Dale did a wonderful gospel presentation. If I remember correctly, I think the vid's about 20 minutes. You'll barely hear me because I could barely talk, but turn the audio up and listen to it. I'll put up a couple of more vids that are gospel-centered if you want to hear the gospel, and I pray you do. And if you have any questions about the gospel, and you want to know more about Christ and salvation, about the God who created you, you can message me. But what do we learn from Whitney Houston? Once again, we learn we are but creatures. We learn that this life is but a vapor. You better consider God now, because it may be too late. Because quite often the Scriptures portray that when that time comes and God's judgment falls and you're screaming for salvation, God is not going to hear you. Because on that day, He will be merciless. Today is the day of salvation. Don't wait, because there's going to come a day when you're going to want mercy. God's not going to give it to you. Take care. Said I'll put the videos in the info box regarding the gospel. And I hope you watch them. And seek God and ask Him to open your eyes. Take care.